First of our speakers is Helen Dallas. Helen is based in Cape Town. She's the Executive Director of the Freshwater Research Centre, and she leads and collaborates in research projects on ecology, conservation and management of aquatic ecosystems in Southern Africa. She has a PhD from UCT, Cape Town, where her career in freshwater ecology began in 1991. Helen is a rated researcher at South Africa's National Research Foundation, and she's been instrumental in developing aquatic biomonitoring protocols and databases in a number of Southern African and East African countries. Her interests in physicochemical aspects of aquatic ecosystems and the effect of water quality on aquatic ecosystems has been the focus of her research, and through this she has contributed to the development of national water quality guidelines for aquatic ecosystems. This evening, Helen is going to be speaking to us about the use of Odonata Map, which is one of our flagship citizen science projects, and she's going to be talking to us about how the virtual museum Odonata Map data is integrated into the freshwater biodiversity information system. Helen, welcome. Thank you for joining us, and over to you.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Rick, and to Les for inviting me to join and giving me the opportunity to share some of the work that I'm doing. Okay, so so as Rick said, this evening I'm going to speak a bit about the freshwater biodiversity information system that we've been developing over the last 3 years, and specifically how the Odonata Map data, which is this incredibly valuable resource that most of you are involved with collecting data for, how the citizen science data can actually be mobilized and made available for our decision makers in South Africa. I'm with the Freshwater Research Centre, as mentioned, and I just thought I'll give 2 minutes about the organization. We obviously are aquatic research specialists, and we're a non-profit organization based in Kommetjies, Cape Town. And we do all sorts of work related to monitoring and management and conservation and climate change, and then more recently have delved into bioinformatics, which relates to mobilizing data for biodiversity. And in terms of what we're doing in the bioinformatics realm, what I'll speak to tonight is what's called FBIS, the Freshwater Biodiversity Information System. And linked to that is the Odonata Map, which through my association with Les, we formed a great partnership, and I think it's been a win-win for both projects in terms of him joining our, allowing us to bring in the data to FBIS and sharing that into the broader audience. I'm also coordinating a informatics seminar series for a number of projects on freshwater bioinformatics in Africa, and that's been going really well. Okay, so why do we need biodiversity data and who needs it? So, I mean, obviously the organizations that can benefit from access to biodiversity data are quite broad and include our key organizations responsible for biodiversity within South Africa, SANBI, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, as well as a number of government departments and organizations such as those responsible for managing water and environment, as well as some of our research organizations linked to the NRF. And then naturally our cities, the city of Cape Town needs biodiversity data, all of our conservation organizations, Sandparks, Cape Nature need information, as well as our museums, and last but not least, our very important NGOs that do an awful lot linking biodiversity and social engagement around the country. So if one just has to sort of have a look at our policy, the types of individuals or leads that would use biodiversity data, if you think of it from the top level, which are the policy advisors that ultimately assist with, making the rules and the parliamentary decisions, through to our managers, including water resource managers, biodiversity managers, our conservation planners, critical for them to have biodiversity data, as well as researchers, consultants, and of course, citizen scientists have great value in using biodiversity data. The sorts of things that we use biodiversity data for include biodiversity or species assessments. We use it for river health assessments or ecological status assessments. Very important for climate change monitoring and management. If you don't know what's there in the past, how can you possibly track trends and change over time in response to global climate change? It can be used for conservation, especially like red list assessments. Atlasing, we need to know which species occur in which parts of the country. Obviously, data is used for scientific papers, as well as things like environmental impact assessments. I'm just providing a sort of a few examples of the type of information and type of reporting that can be used with biodiversity data. Okay, so delving into the freshwater biodiversity information system, the URL is on the top left here for those of you who would like to enjoy it later on. Okay, so at the top we've got our freshwater data users, we've got the FBIS, the information system. Don't be too put off by this little schematic. All I really want to show to you is that the biodiversity data is one very important component of a bigger system. And at the moment, we've got fish, invertebrates, algae, and the adult odonate data. We also have associated physicochemical data, so pH, temperature, and what have you. We've got a whole host of third-party data that we link to, like the IUCN database for conservation status and MiniSAS. Those of you know the citizen science tool MiniSAS, we link to that. And then we've got all sorts of context data that allows you to visualize the data and create filters for querying the data. And I'll speak to this a little bit more when I go on to demonstrate the FBIS live. And then very importantly, to know the reliability of your data, it's important to have the metadata associated with it. And so we do have a knowledge database as well. Okay, so I'm going to just flip over quickly to the live FBIS. So the Freshwater Biodiversity Information System is for tracking change in South African's biodiversity. On the landing page, you get this beautiful photograph of Jeremy Shelton's. And if one scrolls down, we've got these headline dashboards, which try to make a statement to the biodiversity managers out there to say, in the system at the moment, we've got, 35,500 records of fish and invertebrates, and you'll see the odonate adults records is sitting just over 100,000 records, and these are all ones that have been brought in from Odonata Map. I'm going to now dive into the map interface, but just before I do that, I want to just point out two components that you might find useful if you do want to go and explore this information system after the talk or at your leisure in the next week. There's an About tab right on the top, which allows you to find out a bit more about the system, and very importantly, a Help tab, which includes quite an in-depth manual, as well as a number of YouTube videos, instructional videos about getting started and how to navigate your way and become familiarized with the information system. But let's leap into the FBIS itself. It's obviously very much a spatial information system that we have designed with a lot of input from the end users and stakeholders. We started the project by having a series of stakeholder workshops, trying to find out exactly what it is that the end user needs, including the type of reports, the type of graphics, what they're going to use it for, what scale they need it for. And we use this information from the stakeholders to essentially help us design the functionality and the look and feel of the information system. So on the left is where the powerhouse of the system is. I'm going to run through these quite briefly, because I'm aware of the time limits for these presentations or these chats. We have quite a strong search engine that can allow you to search for a species, a river, or a site. These are all what we call drawers, which open up and allow you to select a sub-series of the data that you may be interested in. So for example, we may be interested in odonate adults, and by clicking on the adults, you would then see the odonate data only. Some of the other ones, and I'm not going to go through all of them, allow for querying for a particular year or time series or month, as well as a specific spatial area. So you might be interested in just the Western Cape or the Eastern Cape, and by clicking on one of these, you return just the data for that particular spatial region. We've also included, for example, information on origin and endemism. This is useful for if you're interested in, fish species, for example, that only occur in one river system, for example. That allows you to very easily return those data. And then what I'll demonstrate later is conservation status. The species that are critically endangered or near threatened, you can easily apply that filter. So let's for now just have a quick look at one other feature. I'm not going to go through them all, as I say, because it'll take too long, but that is what we call layers. And these are essentially, it's a way to put visuals, to create layers on the map, to contextualize or provide a backdrop to your specific data. And I'll just show one more. This is the freshwater, the ecoregions of South Africa, which provides for different data, and you can zoom very easily in and out from one region to another. And you can see that it zooms in quite nicely. I won't go any more. And then the last thing I want to show is you can change the base maps from a satellite imagery to topographic or terrain. I'm going to go back to satellite and just quickly unclick that last ecoregions so that we can just visualize the data in a cleaner way. Okay, so if we were to have a look at all of the data on the system at the moment, we've got just shy of 400,000 records, which if we were to add in the data from GBIF, it takes it up to just over 429,000. Now let's go and have a look and see what the odonate data comprises of this amount of information. You click on the odonate adults and you click apply, and very quickly we can see we've got just over 102,000 odonate records comprising 12,500 sites and 200 taxa. And I must reiterate, this is all data that we've harvested and linked to Odonata Map using APIs. I'm not the technical brains behind this, so I won't delve into that side of things. But what I would like to show you is this tab up here where you can say, I want to see the sites or the taxa where I've got the highest number of individuals. And if I then click on the down arrow, I can see the site of Odonata Map data that has the most number of species is the Toti Bird Sanctuary. When you click on any of these, on the right-hand side, an overview dashboard opens up, which provides some summary information and pie charts related to the module that you've selected. I'm just going to close that for now and then open up the taxa. You can see of all the species in the Odonata Map, the species, the red vein dropwing, is by far the most commonly recorded, over almost 6,000 occurrence records. And what I'd like to do now is just chat to the overview panel for this particular species. This is what's shown for all of the species. It's got a link to the BDI Atlas project page, which allows you to very easily go and get more detailed information that Les and his team have been putting together. I think is a fantastic resource for everybody. It shows you obviously the number of occurrence, the number of sites, a common name, a scientific name. It tells you whether it's origin, native or non-native. Its endemism category, in this case, it's widespread, and its conservation status. There is a link to the IUCN species page as well. And then these photographs are ones that are taken from the GBIF, which are brought down from GBIF. If I then open the dashboard, these provide, when you click open dashboard, you go from the overview dashboard to the detailed dashboard. And at a glance, you can see the distribution records for that species. Again, all the information that was mentioned previously, as well as its full taxonomy. And this information can be downloaded as a CSV file, which for those of us who do scientific analysis can easily be analyzed using further multivariate analysis, etc. And then this graph provides a distribution over time. So the earliest record for the species was 1905, with a peak of recordings sort of in the 2015 up to 2020. And then very importantly, at the bottom, all of our dashboards have a metadata table, which provides information about the source of the information. And you can see that obviously all the Odonata adult data comes from the virtual museum through the Odonata map. Okay, I'm going to close that dashboard, and then I'd like to just show you a query where I have selected Odonata map, but what I'd like to do now is to just sort of say I'm really interested in the critically endangered, the endangered, the near threatened, and the vulnerable species, and apply that filter to the data, which then returns a subset of the information. We can see at a glance which taxa these are. And then if I click on site overview, I can get a multi-site overview dashboard, which shows you the filters that have been applied and then provides some overview information. Again, you can click on the dashboard to go into the detailed dashboard, and it shows you the breakdown by conservation status, by endemism and origin. If the sampling method varies, in this case, we've got some that are photographic records and some that are visual observations. And again, all of the distributions just by occurrence, as well as individual taxa or species, and then by origin, endemism, as well as conservation status. These graphs are all downloadable. So if you want to produce a report or create a slide, you can download that. And they're also interactable. So you can cross out vulnerable and then reopen it if you want to add it. Again, the metadata, and again, all of the data. So it's a big, important end user requirement that the original and full data should be accessible. So all of the data, we've made it downloadable as a CSV file, which then also comes with the individual context data. Perfect. I just would like to show you one more workflow. That's if you were interested in a specific site, and then you opened the dashboard, you would see, like I've already explained, the various individual records over time. And then this huge amount of additional information that is especially useful for, report writing and biodiversity assessments, where you can see, this is called geocontext data. So just literally because we've got a latitude and longitude coordinate, we're able to harvest all the spatial related information about the ecoregion, the closest river, the freshwater ecoregion, the management region, what primary catchment it's in, as well as the province. And in all instances, you're able to drill down to the original data for all of the sites displayed. And in this example, or the owner of all of the Odonata map data is Odonata map, but in the collector of this individual record is shown in this, at this sort of data capture level. and the type of method. In this case, it's a photographic record, and then the observed observations. Obviously, with Odonata map, there are no abundances recorded, but for fish and invertebrates, we often do have abundances. But in this instance, there were 3 species recorded at this site on that particular date. And I think that's really where I wanted to end it. I will very happily take questions, but I would like to just end by thanking you, the citizen scientists, who through your enthusiasm and passion have created an incredible resource for the decision makers and the biodiversity planners and the conservation planners. So hopefully this is a way to get the Odonata map data out to the people that can also make a change in terms of legislation and protection and upping our game in terms of biodiversity, and hopefully halt the downward trajectory that we're on in terms of biodiversity loss worldwide. So thank you very much for allowing me to join you this evening.
Fantastic, Helen. Thanks so much. Wow, what a resource you and your colleagues have created through this. I think it's fascinating to have a look at the information that is accessible and to know that it's open access. I mean, I think that's also wonderful. As a contributor to Odonata map, it's amazing. You know, I think those of us who participate in these projects, it really gives a sense of purpose to, you know, just being out there and enjoying ourselves and enjoying taking photographs. And this just adds so much more to that purpose, where we can see how this is actually being used, as you say, for decision making. So yes. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, and a wonderful presentation. Other comments here: compliments to the software developers behind this application. I think, yes, that's very, very true. Philip Nevout asks, will FishMap be added later? I think that they're probably the application probably goes to a number of different taxa, but
yes.
from the point of view of your work, is that one of the things?
Yeah, so most of the FishMap data, if not all, is actually uploaded to GBIF, and we harvest data from GBIF. So we wouldn't get it from FishMap as well, because then we'd be double dipping, and inflating our records. So we did check that, because I'm doing a project in Rwanda, and that was one of the conclusions that we've made, that the FishMap data is uploaded, published to GBIF, and we harvest it from GBIF.
Okay, great.
It'd be wonderful to get the frog map data into the system, as well as
yes,
an FPIS module. That's next prize.
So we've got a follow-on project funded. This was funded by the JRS Biodiversity Foundation in the US, with some co-funding from Sandy, and we've just about to start phase 2. And first, top of that list, Les, is the Anurans. So we will definitely be doing the same for the frog map data. Yeah.
And I hope we can do a frog atlas sort of with texts to back it up in the same way as we've done for the.
Yeah, I think that's an incredible resource to have the the backup information. Definitely.
I don't know what Ryan is like on these frogs. I hope he's.
Yeah.
Hope he's up to scratch.
And we're also adding, so we've obviously, this system focuses on rivers, but we're adding wetlands, so inland wetlands, as well as wetland plants and riparian veg. And then we're developing a module specifically around climate change and water temperatures. So it's lots of happening in this space. And the really rewarding thing is that there are other projects in Africa that are also funded by JRS, and we're collaborating wonderfully with them in Rwanda and now the Okavango, and we're piggybacking on each other's projects. So instead of reinventing the wheel each time, we're working together and collaborating, so that the extra development happening on a Rwanda project then feeds back into the South African equivalent, and so we're all the richer for it, Yeah.
Helen, is there any scope, we have a number of folk from other parts of Africa as part of this forum. Laban is with us, and he's joining us from the Kenyan coast. Could they be in touch just to get ideas or to see how they could go about things, perhaps, with a view one day to linking in with a larger project?
Absolutely. I'm always open to chatting to individuals in other parts. I have met Laban before. Hi, Laban. Nice to see you again. And our vision in terms of developing this information system was to create it, and that's where our software team, which is Cartosa, they're the open source specialists. Tim Sutton is actually one of the founders of QGIS, and their whole philosophy is open source and sharing. And we've developed the whole back-end system that it can be easily adapted to other parts of the world. And in fact, in a session this morning, I was sitting with somebody from AquaHub in Austria, and she's now really keen to take it global. So we don't know where it'll go, but the philosophy is work together and build a powerful system that everyone can benefit from. So I'm very happy to chat to anyone from your group who would like to learn more about it or get involved, definitely.
Fantastic. That's great to hear. Mark Harriman's just a question that, will you be including ephemeral pans as well?
Yes, definitely. That's so obviously one of the spatial layers is going to be the working closely with Nancy Job and Betsy, in terms of the seasonal pans and the latest wetland layer that's available for the country, and then mobilizing data. And the next phase is also to train the data providers and assist them in our freshwater community around the country. And we've tried to create shortcuts and easy methods for getting information into the system so that it can be accessible to everyone who needs it.
And then there's one final question I see Zandra has asked about submitting, other invertebrate records such as crabs.
Yes,
how does one go about this? Can an individual submit records, or must it be, drawing in a larger databases?
No, absolutely. It's designed. There are forms on the front end. I never obviously showed these, but you can add in an individual record of an invertebrate or a fish. The only thing is that it's sort of, this is like the research grade information. Obviously, there are other platforms for more citizen science-based data, and we do bring in the iNaturalist research grade data via GBIF as well. So this is more of an information system that's for, not so much the straight citizen science data. I know like Odonata Map is verified by your group of experts, and although it's citizen science data, it's of a quality that's, highly respected and research grade as far as all of us are concerned. But so if there's a study and it's got it could also be unpublished, but yes, one can individually add data. If there's a lot of data to go in, it's better to work with us so that we can facilitate and show, the person how to bring in sort of an Excel spreadsheet template worth of data.
Fantastic, thanks. I think that, those of us who are listening in, and I'm sure people who watch the video that's available via the YouTube channel later, it's a wonderful introduction to this amazing resource, and I'm sure you would welcome contact from anybody who has questions with regard to getting the data in and making it available.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. Helen, thanks so much.